So we're not going to be at any room. We're going to kind of see what's going to happen while the group itself that we arranged. And this is the dynamic that we'd like to see it happen at the organic. Okay. So anyway, really beautiful morning in the neighborhood. Alhamdulillah. And it's a beautiful morning in Japan, and what makes it beautiful is your presence. So thank you for coming and joining us again. This is our third talk, so this will conclude our three talks with Sidi Hakim. So it's a great pleasure for me to introduce him again, since we have new faces this morning, and the roles that we have to see new faces joining us. So Sidi Hakim Archuletta has worked with healing art profession for over 40 years. His interest in medicine and natural health and the study of God's creation began at the time. His first formal studies were in fine arts, film, theater, music, which he studied in the 60s in Berkeley. After becoming Muslim in 1969, he began the research and study of traditional Islamic medicine and homeopathy. In 1978, Hakim went to Pakistan at the invitation of Hakim Muhammad Saeed and studied there with various Hakims. Hakims are traditional Islamic doctors. Returning to the Americas in the 1980s, he began teaching students privately and established a family practice clinic in Santa Barbara, California, a clinic for many years that served in midwifery center in college in New Mexico, and extensive programs for public education on Islam for Muslims and others. He has lectured, taught, study groups, workshops, nationally and worldwide, for professional and lay persons. He began extensive work as counselor, consultant, and Hakim/homeopath in Abiqui, New Mexico. I still say it wrong. He has recently focused on the somatic approaches to trauma and related methods of therapy, with particular interest in connecting what he has learned to traditional Islamic teaching and the newer research that supports that. He lives in northern New Mexico with his wife and son, has many students and clients worldwide. So please join me in welcoming Sidi Hakim for the talk today. The title of the talk is Social Media is or living in the social space, cyberspace, and this is specifically to answer the question of, and I put this question, so forgive me if I didn't ask the right question, but I know that you will give us the right answer. Is social media anti-social? And this is a statement that I heard from Dr. Omar at one point. He says, social media is everything but social.
Well, first of all, I'm very happy to be here. I've said this more than once today. Every day after saying the very warm welcome and attention. So, almost overwhelming, really. Not in the sense of being traumatic, but in a positive sense. So, yeah, I think first of all, this topic, social media, is it social at all, is the question. I think everybody knows the answer to that. Don't we? Is there anybody that doesn't know the answer to that? Is there anyone here who does? Is there anyone that really feels that social media, Facebook, Instagram, all this stuff that happens and connected with our phones or its devices, does anyone feel like it really does draw us closer together? If we're going to be honest, if you think it draws us closer together? I'm sorry? No, I'm sorry. Exactly what way? Okay, but it's not, I guess one has to ask. Okay, so one has to ask, this is part of the thesis. Now, usually when I'm doing these workshops, each day is kind of continuity. So and I realize that now, but it can start fresh with the new people that have not been here. So it's not been typical of what I ordinarily do, which is to build on the previous, each time build on it. So I have to review somewhat. Part of what I've presented for those of you that have been here realize that this concept of being present and what that means, and what that means by being present, and what I mean and what is meant when we say that Paul was the most present of people, the most present of human beings. That he was the most also sentient. This word sentient means he felt more. His senses were more alive, he was more awake, but therefore more present, and that enabled him to have a certain quality of being, which we recognize in others, that a person is very present. They have that quality of being present, or they don't. So being in the body and social and being social rather than connecting with information. When we listen to someone on the telephone or on Skype even or whatever, we miss something that's happening here right now. And this is all that, again, I'm reiterating a lot of stuff. I don't want to really repeat everything. But what's happening right here as I speak at this moment is my voice is first being heard by my body. And if we do not hear our own voice with our body and our ears, we can't speak. Does anyone know that? You know that? Yeah. Right? Okay. So, and if anyone knows this phenomena of if you're being interviewed by the radio, it's a phenomena where there's a delay between the time you speak and when it comes back, and you have to hear your own voice. Most people, they can't speak. So we have to hear our own voice as we speak. We have to know that our arm is moving to move. We have to be embodied, is to be short what I'm saying. Allah placed our soul in this body from the time we were in our mother's womb, and that soul has remained in this body to this time. As I said the other day, I say, I say soul. I ask myself, soul, how is it? How is it in this body? How is it, me taking you and carrying you here and there? How is it being in this vehicle and this house or this domicile for you? Is it working? Things I do, practice like that. What my body does, where I go, what it takes me, what I eat, what I don't eat. How is it for you? Because in the bottom line, our soul is contained and remains here. The same soul we had when we were 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 13, 14, or 13 or 14 yet. And so there's even harmony for that, relatively speaking, and our life force. Now, there used to be this term that we used in traditional medicine in various forms, in different languages. And the life force, the vital force, was a concept of something that enabled us to be alive. The vital force, meaning the life force itself. The Elan Vital, various names for it. And recently in the modern world, it's been replaced with this concept of immunity. And that's a concept, and that's a term that has come into use with the advent of the AIDS and the breakdown of the immune system. But and so we say in modern, if we go to Whole Foods, we get something from Whole Foods that said, the advertisements, they say, this will boost your immunity. And I say, I don't want my immunity boosted. I want my vital force and my life force boosted. Because immunity is just defensive, protective. But this is indicative of something, of an attitude that's come about in the modern world. We're more concerned with protecting than we are with living. Okay? So my teacher said, and this work that I do very much has to do with what I would say could be summed up by saying coming back to life. Coming back to life. How many people have come to me and they've said, well, and we work for a while and they begin to reflect and they begin to analyze and sort of discover, well, what's my difficulty these days? What's wrong? What's the most difficult? What is it in essence? And they say, very often, this is so common, you don't have no idea how many times I've heard this, people say, I feel like I've lost myself. I'm not who I'm meant to be. I've lost who I was. And usually it's who I was when I was a child, or who I was when I went to the university or something, and I was full of excitement and enthusiasm, and then, or even earlier. So Shakespeare, he said, to be or not to be. Back to the prophet. He was being, he was present. And that presence was so strong that even his smile would make someone tremor or weep because of that presence of being. By Allah's command, and by Allah's position that he placed in it. But we have this as our birthright to be present in the world, or we can shut down, and get to this place where we're barely alive. My teacher said, I'm reiterating a lot of things here because I'm going to give some sort of foundation for what we're going to do that relates to the social media. What I'm talking about here is certain things are not possible by WhatsApp. And that thing that's not possible is one of the most important things we need as human animals. We are human animals. And this concept, this tradition goes back, I always refer to Imam al-Ghazali, who said, we as Muslims, we respect our animal nature. We respect the fact that we're animals. We don't do what some spiritual paths do, where we try to deny it, we try to shut it down. We try to destroy it and be in some sort of nether world, some kind of abstracted world, or spiritual world that is not embodied. Imam al-Tirmidhi, one of our scholars, he said, our aqidah, our beliefs, are not really totally genuine until we embody them. Sister Aisha, radiallahu anha, she said that the Prophet ﷺ was the Quran walking. What is that? And I was thinking, look at that, the Quran walking, embodied in a human body. This is our birthright, and this is the way we were designed by Allah. And so coming back to life, I say, and I've stressed this in the past couple of days, is coming back into our bodies. And I say back into our bodies because for the most part, we were more present in our bodies when we were young children, babies, or toddlers. My teacher said, you want to learn about the nature of vitality and good health. And if you want to even learn about power and strength in the body, because they're present in their body. Strength is not bulky, it's not being buff. You use that term is popular here, isn't it? Or having a six-pack, hard body. So another thing that I said, my teacher said, as is our body, so is our self. This is our nafs. We don't try to destroy our nafs, we try to purify our nafs. Everything we do in our guidance in Islam, from wudu, the recitation of Quran, to salah, to sadaqah, to hajj, all of these things are physical things we do, aren't they? We do it with the body, and they're all means of purification of the self, providing they do what they're meant to do. If we're not present, we can go through the motion. In other words, if we're not even present in the salat or present with whatever we're doing, we may go through the motions routinely, robotically. People have come to me for years and they say, how can I be more present in my salat? And I say, well, yes, I'll try to help you with that. But we also want to be more present for all the things. We want to be more present with your brothers and sisters, with your spouse. We want to learn how to be present. This is so crucial for everything, if it's going to go the way it's meant to go by Allah's design for us as human mammals. So I'm saying this in relation to, I'll get to the social media. There are things that we do not get in the social media. We do not get, what I was saying about my speaking, when I'm speaking, my body hears what I'm saying. This table hears it. The vibrations that I am speaking bounce off of this table. I mentioned yesterday the echolocators. People that don't know the echolocators are these usually young people, teenagers, who are blind. But they learn to see by making a sound. They go. And by doing that, they can tell if there's a building, if there's a tree, if there's a table. They can ride. One boy was riding a bicycle down a trafficy street, busy street, with cars moving, and he's blind, like a bat. But by the fact that all the sound, everything we speak, and whatever we speak, if we say Subhanallah, it's heard by everything around us, and it's heard by the other as well. It's heard by our bones. To be honest, so it's part of what I'm trying to present here is waking up and realizing the extraordinary phenomena. It's just our life. It's just the physical world. We don't live for this alone. But what Allah has provided here, it's not a little thing. But our birthright is to be with it and present with it and accept it and submit to it. One of our primary submissions that Allah has challenged us to take place is accepting that we're in this body. And when we're children and when we're toddlers and infants, we're very much in our body, much more so. And as time goes on, when we've been hurt, when it's been difficult, we've had all sorts of emotions, and we face the slings and arrows of life, as Shakespeare said. Then we begin to shut down, we begin to close down to manage it. Otherwise, it would be too overwhelming. So when I speak, not only is the table hearing it, but your body's hearing it, and not just your ear is hearing what I'm saying. Your entire body and every pore of your body is also hearing it. And either you're awake, and that either informs your state, or if you shut down, it may not. There are degrees of being awake. One writer said we live in a time in which the dormant state is the dominant one. That is, as if we're asleep. He said to Ali radiallahu anhu, said, mankind is asleep. And when he dies, he wakes up. So social media, yes, it connects. But in some way, we have to look at it realistically, that it's what's connecting is an abstraction of us. It's a codified version of us. Yes? Does that make sense? Does that make sense the way I'm describing it? It's a codified version. It's like, it's reconstituted. It's what the computer engineers, what do you call it when it becomes, on and off? What do they call that? Sort of, what is it?
Binary.
It's binary, yeah. I mean, all that's, it's not real in that sense. But I mean, we do grasp and we contain it. Just see someone on Facebook. I see someone on Facebook when we have a word and they say some words of love and stuff. God, it's like, yeah, I'm moved by it. So we get something from it. But there's other things we don't get. There are things that we get from sitting together and being that we do not get from these distant kind of things. And because those things do not have what I'm speaking about, like for example, my voice, that when it bathes my body, and it bathes the floor, and it bathes your body, and all the parts of the body respond when we have in-person conversation. That's why I say, in New Mexico, when I go to pick up my mail at the post office, there will be people there, local people, and I'll say, good morning, how are you? And we'll do what's called small talk. And I can, what is it?
She's in the camera and live stream, so we're just asking.
What is it again? What, you don't want to, she shouldn't be there? What's happening?
She's in the live stream. No, she's showing.
Oh, is that not all right? Okay. So when I go to the post office and small talk takes place, I say it's not small talk. It's because there are things that are conveyed between each other in the tone of our voice and simply the presence of being. I say the barakah and the blessing of the other's bad breath. If we recognize what I'm talking about fully, we recognize that, and while it might be unpleasant, we can say, yes, but it's real. You don't get that over Skype. You don't get that on WhatsApp. And we don't get the chemistry that comes forth from our body that is actually messages, semantic word messages. We do not get that. We can get the message of the tone of voice, and we can grasp by generosity. It's not all negative, of course. I mean, I do most of my work by Skype with people, and I work with the body. Interestingly enough, I work with people's bodies. So we have to see the balance of it. We have to see what it does, which is draws us closer together from our children, whatever they might be, and friends that we haven't seen for years. Happens when we're together physically that does not happen with social media. And that's why we have to ask. Listen to this. This is one of my basic theses. If we do not begin to realize and understand that the age in which we live, we are becoming more and more disembodied, then if we don't get and understand what the significance of that is, then I say it's pretty important that we do. People, if we do not begin to grasp and what it means to live in this modern age, in this modern period, in which technology is taking over and we become more and more abstracted and disembodied, not present in our body, if we don't understand the implications of that, we cannot, it's going to be very difficult for us to heal, both as individuals, personally, and collectively. It will be hard for us to recover. Because we'll become, here's the thing, one of my teachers said, all violence finds its way into life by not being present. And we need this body. One of the things I said, I have this thing where I say, this is a hikmah. I do this, meaning it's kind of like a headline. One of the hikmahs is emotions take place in the body. Use the word feel, it takes a body for it. We can't think happy. We can think happy thoughts, but thinking happy is not until that, the hippocampus and the amygdala, the things in the brain, until it drives the body to experience something, and the molecules and the cells in our body. There's a book by this woman called Molecules of Emotion, Candace Pert. Amazing book. She all of her studies, she describes this whole reality that happened. We feel happy, we feel sad, we feel hurt, we feel jealous, and all these things, all these great range and permutations of feelings, generally in the whole general way, but very specifically in cells, cell receptors. So this new understanding that science is bringing to us is just referring, it takes us back to this reality that it's, and I have these hikmas, these truths that I speak and kind of like to emphasize like this, that I call the hikmas, these things that we say, yeah, we should understand that. It's obvious, it's so obvious. Or it can be so, it should be so obvious, yes.
So I understand or reach a conclusion that if we want to observe ourselves while praying or doing anything like dua, dealing with children, family, whatever in the community.
Yes.
So we become torn between feeling to really observe ourselves doing these things and feeling it, and observing ourselves in this virtual, unreal world in the social media. This is making us feel torn between the two.
Yeah, I think so. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Was that? I mean, we do become torn between the two, but I'm not saying we throw out these things. Although fasting, really good idea. And some parents when I grew up, and when I was born, I grew up, we didn't have television. No television even, not even that. There was, old records that, spin right plastic records. So all this, and the media, they keep wanting to make it more and more, and what happens is we begin to separate from a reality that's true and embodied, that has presence. Like I say, bad breath, the Prophet says the bad breath that passing that person is a blessing. So he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was very present in his being, and we know that when he turned to be with the person completely, if he had a hand, his hand, he was the last one to take it away. Touch. What happens in touch can't be replaced by any media. That, however they hardly will try. When we have touch as human beings, we need this. Babies need this. Babies who are born premature, it's been pretty well established that those babies need being stroked. We as mammals and human animals, like all mammals, we need contact with each other. And when we touch, and unfortunately, as we get older in most cultures, most societies, as we get older, we need that touch even more, and we don't have it because that touch, back to the immunity thing, let's use that, it actually activates our defense mechanisms, T cells, and things that keep us from getting ill and getting disease. So we need that. There was a Buddhist man, he said you should be able to hug, someone else 22 times a day at least. I don't know how he came up with 22, but we, and in the culture, I remember when I was in Morocco years and years ago, and I have always had this strange kind of, by Allah, sort of permission to be in the women's quarters. And here we are, this crowd of women. This has been going on for me for many, many, many years. I just say, Allahu Akbar, I don't know what this is about, mashallah. But I remember, I was in the Zawiya, I was in the place of my sheikh in Morocco, and they invited me into the women's quarters. And when I went, of course, a male going in there, a young, American, new Muslim male, and they were all making comments and making fun of me. But what I saw there was the most amazing thing. There was maybe 7, 8, maybe 10 women with incredible kind of layers of beautiful, bright colors, and they were lying on this long divan, and they were all just kind of one whole body, all together, heads in each other's laps, stroking hair, all comedy. Just like this great mass of living human beings, all touching each other, and it was overwhelmingly beautiful. I mean, I just thought, SubhanAllah, I'll never forget this. It's such an example of this thing that we naturally have an inclination for, but we more and more, or less and less, do not partake in as we could. People say to me, well, what about my children? I would have difficulties. One of the simple things like children, contact, physical contact means something. Something happens when it's more than what meets the eye, as one would say. And that has positive and negatives. I mean, in our aqidah, not in our aqidah, but in our Islam, we know that touching male to female, often we don't do that because something happens there that doesn't happen if we keep some space. But that's another whole topic. But the point I'm making here is that so much happens in our interchange and presence of being. Kind of a quick review of a whole bunch of material that I've already presented. But I want to do this in preparation to an exercise that I can give you that I hope you can get to take away that has to do with becoming embodied. Okay? You follow what I'm saying here? So what could that be? And if you do this exercise, let me tell you, if this exercise is done and you get it and you understand it. Now, when I've taught this, sometimes I'll do it to a group like this and maybe only 3 or 4 people. will get it. And checking back with them later, I once did it for a group of people, and the man that was part of the group, he got it, and he had an organization in the States, and he said, well, can you come and train my organization in these various things and these concepts? Because they were working with trauma. They worked with, people who were being victims of Islam, so-called Islamophobia and things like that. And so I did it, and when we were doing it with the group, I was teaching them, and he'd already learned this. It's something I call my chi. Instead of Tai Chi, it's my chi. Sorry? Someone say something? Oh, is that a chair? Sorry. The chair spoke. And he got it, and he was making all these movements, and the people who were supposed to be learning were looking at me thinking, oh my God, is that what we're supposed to do? So try to listen carefully and here's the thing. The day before, I think yesterday, we worked at this idea of focusing our attention in different parts of our body. Most times when I do this work, I'll start by asking people to pay attention to their feet. So try that right now. So if your feet are on the floor, or even if one foot is on the floor, and now some of you are looking down, as if you're going to, in other words, attention means eye contact. And I'll say to people, if they don't have shoes on, I'll say, what do you feel underneath your feet? And they'll look down, and then they'll say, carpet. Others will go like this, carpet. Others will go, you see what I'm saying here? Now the word mind in English was originally a verb. I think I mentioned this yesterday. Sorry? Or the day before. In any case, mind was a verb, and it meant paying attention to something. Mind your elbow, mind the gap, mind your manners, pay attention to something. If I pay attention to VW bugs, or Mercedes, if I'm concerned about it, I'll see them wherever I go. You pay attention. So here's another big one. If we pay attention to anything, we amplify that. One of the most strongest and dramatic ways we pay attention to something is to talk about it. Talk about it. Talk about it. In the country I come from, unfortunately, people talk about a particular person that I would just rather not even hear the name. And they reiterate it, and it gets bigger and bigger every time they start to speak of it. Okay? If you look at and you start talking about how difficult life is, and you keep repeating and reiterating, life it'll get more and more difficult. That doesn't mean we hide our heads in the sand and say, and there's nothing wrong with saying, Alhamdulillah wa shukrillah, or people, my teachers, one of my teachers said, when someone says, how it's perfectly good and maybe even better for you, he said, to say, I feel really terrible today. Alhamdulillah. So we want to have the access to acceptance of what Allah has commanded, hamd shukr, even if it's a difficult. But mind, so when I say, what do you notice on your feet? Notice what you feel with your feet. So your mind is going to your feet. Now in the modern world, the newest thing is this understanding that our intelligence is not just up here in our headquarters of our nervous system. It's an embodied thing. Back to Imam Eternity. He says our Aqidah is not genuine until we embody it. So our mind, we can say, okay, what do you notice? So just pay attention. Notice your feet. Notice the weight of your body on the chair. Can everybody feel the weight of their body on the chair? Anybody can't feel the weight of that? It's possible not to notice and not be able to awaken and have that sensibility take place, happen. It's possible. It's not uncommon. Sometimes it takes some practice. That's why my homework for everybody, when I say, one of the things I say to take away is begin to pay attention to the physical bodily sensations that you can experience in all situations. Pay attention to all physical bodily sensations in all situations. You walk into a beautiful garden, notice that you feel your body. You walk into, you see something that's difficult and not so nice. Destruction is like that's beautiful for some people. Notice what you feel in your body. The Prophet ﷺ, he said 3 things bring coolness to my eye, meaning coolness. He said the green of nature, running water, and a beautiful face. And that's an indication of what I'm talking about. Everything that we take in all senses, by smell, sight, hearing, temperature, everything, and things that we don't have a name for, things and senses that we have and we're capable of, that we don't have names for. You know what I'm saying? Traditionally, they say 5 senses. Even Senna said 5 our senses and 5. We sort of live with this 5 senses. You know, there's a man in Berkeley. He wrote a book called The Sense of the Stare. And his studies demonstrate pretty clearly that we can be sitting here, if someone is staring at us, we can know what says it. I mean, the studies are dramatic. You know, and we know that. It's familiar, right? And so I'm saying, and you know, some people say it called these faculties that we can develop. In some ways, they might have the animal sphere. You know, this enhanced ability to sense very subtle things, insight, having insight. So nowadays we have this understanding that's becoming, and it will become more popular. If you haven't read about this, it's heard it, embodied cognition. People will say, you know, a lot of people, it comes in many popular ways. People will say, well, you know, I ask my body. And it says such and such. Women do this intuitively very much. They live in their bodies, and their bodies experience more emotion and more feeling than we do men do, because we're trained to not feel. Because we're trained into this thing, we have to get this job done. We have to be strong. We can't cry, et cetera. We have to do this. And so we actually learn how to not only shut down, but at some point, to not be working until we have feeling. And then our wives, you know, like the wife, the story is, you know, the wife is, you know, mentions or discusses something that has to do with maybe the first time they met. You know, and she has this memory of how wonderful that feeling was. And the husband says, yeah, I remember the car had such and such mileage of it, and then now it's got this mileage. Going to this, so that abstraction. Now, before we get into this exercise, one more thing I want to add to this abstraction. Do people know this? Well, we all know this term narcissist, right? Right. So what does narcissist mean?
Self-centered and not like empathetic.
Self-centered and not empathetic. Okay, that second part of it is really important, because a lot of people will say, you know, in love with themselves. But does anybody know this? Maybe some. This is the story that comes from Narcissus, who he was, what he was. You know the story?
He looked at the water and he fell out of himself.
He was told, do not look at the pond and do not see yourself. Do not look at yourself. That was his order not to do it, and he did it. And what happened?
He drowned.
Well, what happened is he got stuck. He went to the pond and he saw its beauty, enamored with it, and his companion, people know this part of the story, his companion, her name, male, her name was Echo. And Echo could only repeat anything he said. She could not add anything of herself to it. She could only repeat what he said. And he became enamored, and he became enchanted and entranced, not with himself, but with the image outside of himself, in the pond. And so he was stuck there. The modern world, we did not have photographs. We did not have media with images. We didn't have any of these things 100 years ago. But when we get that, boom. I love movies. I used to make some films, you know, I love movies. But movies and all of that, television, all these images, it's another kind of like we have virtual realities. Reality, no accident that you can become what is called reality TV. It's not reality. You know, I remember the story of a sheikh in Mauritania. They say when they took the first radio in Mauritania in the desert, and they turned it on and it said, "This is such and such. I'm speaking from the BBC in London." And he said, "No, it's not London. It lies." And so there's a certain kind of lie in the fact that it's not real. What we believe is. People say, I say, you know, what's your favorite thing to do? Young people, they say, well, music's my favorite thing. Oh, really? What, you know, like, they have all these CDs. They don't play music, they don't sing. It's the same they listen to passively, and it's not even a real instrument. CDs, recordings, is not the same thing, does not happen that happens with a real instrument or a real voice in a room. Okay, so the modern thing of this concept of embodied cognition, of thinking with our whole body, we could say also, as we pay attention to the weight of our body, the chair or our feet, we could say the information that we're sensing, becoming aware is coming from the mind of our feet, or the mind of our bum, right? You see what I'm saying? So this exercise I want to do, How My Chi, is a thing which we can start coming into our body, but the prerequisite to that is being able to, more or less some degree, have some ability to sense the things that are taking place in our body. Okay. Yeah.
Since we are already subjected to movies and images,
Yeah.
how can we sort of shift it to the middle, where we are aware of these things, we do utilize them, they are not, in a sense, overwhelming or damaging.
Or damaging, and the damage is typically by dissociation. The overwhelming is when we're not capable and we don't have enough resources in our body to sustain what comes. We watch movies and sometimes you cannot not cry, I mean, or whatever, or get angry. But that's part of what it's designed to do. Part of the reason we do that is it orchestrates these things that want to take place, and to some level, it's a cathartic experience in which we, the amount of violence that is in reading. I don't think, people talk about it, I don't think they realize how dramatic that is as a reality. To repeat and repeat, even in video games, where, stop heroic, they shoot someone or do something, blood, virtual blood comes out. But, what they do, particularly in the Western TV, it doesn't happen in Iran, in the Iranian TV, they don't show the same things, and they don't entertain this sort of part of our being, like it's designed to do. If I watch a movie and it opens with some sort of, sex scene, describe it, I think, why do they have to do that? Why do they have to do that? It start on such a bad note. So, okay, so the sensations, the ability to feel these sensations, is something we can develop. That's why I say begin to pay attention. Now, I know many people that I work with, and they say, my life has changed. So really, he said, and they say, just because I begin to pay attention to what's happening in my body, just because I begin to become aware of how I am responding to something. If someone's annoying, every time I see them, or I get angry, or I feel jealous, or I feel hurt by anyone, we should accept that this is something I'm experiencing. I can blame them, but maybe it's their personality, and maybe it's just their tone of voice, but they are who they are, and that's their business. And the ability to have them there and me here is a degree and an aspect of having the sovereignty of the self. Does that make sense?
Actually, I wrote these crucial conversations in a book that is called Crucial Conversations.
About which?
Crucial Conversations.
Crucial conversation.
Yes, to reach a positive attitude when you reach a crucial conversation. One of the exercises to be skilled to make yourself skilled in realizing yourself with your emotions before you act, before you communicate with others, so that you can
make a decision.
Yes, and make a good communication instead of.
And what's the technique? What's the tool they use for that?
It's like to realize yourself, to realize.
Just to pay attention here. What's happening here?
Yeah.
And when you recognize what's happening here, you have an understanding or a sense of they're there. I'll give you a personal story. When I was learning this, my mother, I hadn't seen her for maybe 2 years. And my mother, I love my mother and I love her, bless her, she's passed away, but she's a problematic person. It's not unusual. And it's not unusual that we have these mixed feelings about people generally. And very often mother, father, we love them, but on the other hand, they've done this, and we have a history of having negative and positive. And I hadn't seen her for years, and I went to see her, she's not a Muslim, so, so good to see you, it's been so long and everything. And it wasn't maybe less than 5 minutes, about 5 minutes of our conversation. She began saying and speaking in a way, mostly about all of the other children, which is basically, of course, she wants to tell me what's happening all right. But she began saying these things that have always annoyed me. And so I was working to say, well, so what do I feel in my body? And I realized, I feel like eating. And I thought, wait a minute. I haven't seen my mother for 2 years, and am I going to be honest with myself that I'm going to eat because that's what I feel? And I realized, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. And so I stayed with the eating. I feel like leaving. And then I stayed with that. And as soon as I submitted to staying with the fact that I felt like leaving, suddenly I saw her as with her all her qualities and all these things. And I was able to stay and feel more empathy for her. And because I recognize this is happening in me. So the annoying person, I say, in this kind of more exercising, and everybody has these annoying people. We all have it as part of the design of it. It's a challenge for us. Allah's given us like, oh, they're annoying, and you still love them. And it's a beautiful exercise to get there. So all of these things I'm talking about, the embodied realities of self-experience, self-developing the presence and being, of balance, regulation, stuff, all of these demand presence in our body and something that happens. It can happen to some degree on screen, absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, Skype, I'm still amazed that I do somatic work, working with people's bodily sensations on Skype from 1,000 miles away or more, from across the world. So we want to take, so in terms of the balance, the question about how do we balance this, I do not become overwhelmed or have a negative effect, is I suggest by sustaining and developing more presence in ourselves, in the world, in our bodies. And when we do that, we can experience even the abstract more fully. I stayed with a man in Portola, one of the islands in the British Virgin, the American, in the Caribbean, I forget what part of it was part of it. And he was a man who lived at the forest for many, many years. He was a Rastafarian Muslim. That's possible. In any case, he ate fish that he caught, fruit from the trees. He was like the ultimate Mr. Natural, And then his wife told me, she said, well, everything for him is Mr. Natural. Everything's in the forest, everything's outside. Swimming, he had a boat, all these kinds of things. And she said, except he loves wrestling. The WWE, the wrestling, everybody knows about that. And so I was curious about it. And he every Wednesday night or something. So I thought, I just want to see what's with this man that just totally is engaged in nature. And so it started thinking, it's all this posturing, the bad guys and the good guys, and the bad guy says he's the good guy now, and he starts to hope he does something he's not supposed to, and wherever he's going to So he's sitting there watching, he jumps up and runs and screams, referee. He totally engaged. So the point I'm making here is that we're more present. All things become more enhanced by the presence of our being and how we respond. Even the printed page, in the Quran it says, for the ones who read the ayat Quran, and their skin thrills. And for sure, they have this experience from it. So we want to be alive. We want to be immune, because that's what the way of dealing with this in the world. A lot of this is just abstracting ourselves. The media enables us to be detached to some degree, which is a kind of safety. We can always turn it off. Or you can always, I've been in a situation where the screen goes, it's not my fault, it's the connection. It goes down and I'm thinking, maybe it's all right. Like it's not that pleasant. So let's try this exercise that I call Moichi. Okay? So and this, I was saying earlier to Dr. Hilla, She said, well, let's move all the chairs. And I said, you know, I don't know if you take part of these team building exercises. Team building, one of the things is they ask their team to group to perform a task. And then depending upon what happens, they analyze how well do you do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to make that space we can stand. That's a freedom of movement. And we're going to see how well we can do it. Harmony. And then come back to focus. Simply move away. Just so you understand. Get attitude, put your chairs down where they are, come back together, and stand, and jaw. We could have done it behind the chairs too. Probably in one space to the right, to the left, and right out. Okay. Yesterday, okay, let's have, and in the team building exercise to see how well you work as a group and how well organized you perform tasks. You know, there's always one or two people who say, that's enough. They start organizing, making it happen. Right? Like you said, okay. Okay, what happened to the males? Guys, I'm going to feel overwhelmed here. Here. When we move and we do such an action such as reaching out like that, right? Okay. We reach out. Now we make the movements taking place from point A. That's an action. Okay. Point A to point B. And interesting, I mean, we can get more into this. We can spend a lot of time with it because if we reach out with our hand like this, as if we're pushing stuff in the way, notice what the state and what happens in your body and what that experience is like. Pushing something. See if you can notice that and see if you can notice the difference between that and pulling something. Anybody get the sense of the difference between those two? The entire nervous system, if your intention is to push something away, or your intention is to pull something to you, your entire nervous system responds accordingly. It's not just in the arm, it's in the whole body. Probably likely feel it more in your gut or your chest. Pushing away, or pushing away, and pulling to. That's an exercise in itself. I mentioned yesterday that there are these people who do these very simple exercises. There are people who have Alzheimer's and we have these various breaking down of cognitive functioning. And when they do these exercises, they're very simple movements with awareness. There's a method called Feldenkrais. Feldenkrais, Alexander. These are methods. I think Feldenkrais, they subtitle something like awareness through movement. But even making simple, very, very simple movements with awareness of what's taking place experientially. You know, what do I feel in my muscles and my nerves? So we can do that. Like if we raise our arms, notice before you do it, very slowly raise your arms and notice what muscles are enabling that, and the muscles you can feel, and the nerves in those muscles that enable you to feel your arms. That's it. And now hold it. And what muscles are good? What muscles are tight? Anybody? Physically, there's physical realities. This is upper back. See, you feel this sort of tension in the back of the neck. Yes? Yes. And knees. Okay, well, depending on the dynamics of our body and our posture and our structure, these are all different shapes. You know, somewhere like this, something like this. and this shapes and this dynamic and this balance or equilibrium or lack of equilibrium that's developed over all these years that makes us different shapes will determine different things about what happens. Okay? So the mind changes is very simple. First of all, so the mind change begins with one very simple thing, which is paying attention to sensations. Just as I said, begin paying attention to the physical sensations in your body in all circumstances. And what happens if you do that is you begin to learn and become more aware of what's happening in your body. Not what's happening out there, not the annoying person, not the mom that you're having trouble with, not if you're under your wife that you're having, or the events, or the news, or what comes to the media, or the person that offends you. We feel offended so easily. That's one of the Plato said that's the thing that creates most disturbances is when we feel offended. But in modern research now, they study these things. To feel rejected is one of the worst things that can happen to us physiologically and neurologically in our emotional body and our neurological regulation and functioning. Feeling rejected or feeling isolated. Okay? Those are things that are the opposite of what I'm talking about that we need as human beings, which is, Imam Ghazali said, we may move up to our elbows with these very arms that we lift, that we embrace our brothers and sisters with, and then we can actually lift them out of their difficulty. This is our nature. The Buddha said 22 hugs a day. So, first thing then is the ability to develop this tool, this faculty of sensing what you're noticing in your body. Okay? So can everybody feel, and when we stand, yesterday I did the exercise, when we stand, we want to try to stand with our knees unlocked, not locked. Okay? So, yeah, you get it? They were locked, right? Notice the difference, huh? Right? Because when we unlock them, I'm doing that, sorry, when we unlock them, something happens, something changes in our back. And if something changes in our back, something changes in our breath. See if we can come up right naturally with our knees. Because we adjust. Okay, so first of all, if we do this, if we at this moment. Okay? Not that we recall, and there's something in life, something in the past, event, some experience, and everybody sort of think of something like that. Yes? And most people can. Some people say, I can't think of anything. Nothing ever good out. That's never true, but that's another story. So, okay, so as you recall that event, I'm not asking you to try to remember that time and what you felt, but just remember that event. This thing happened, and kind of in your mind's eye, put a snapshot on it, like, yes, that was a great time. And then from that snapshot, go to your body and notice what you feel in your body. Remember that your experience. I'm remembering when I was here in Lebanon, and there was this group of people that were just so happy, they were crying, so proud to be back. And that's it. So what do you notice in your body? Anybody? Where? Warmth in your chest. Okay. Anybody else? Now some people feel sadness. Right? Yeah. I can see someone that's feeling sadness right this moment. Ready to cry. Just put paying attention to that. Hey. It's okay. This is what this is being human. This is what we're about. This is what we're about. Okay? So the next thing, or the first part, so I'm saying this can be developed, the ability to notice, and we will feel different things in different parts of our body. Often if we feel anger, we'll feel it in our face, our neck, back of our neck, we'll feel it in our shoulders, arms. Someone once came, this is later, and today I'll get into this again, but someone once came to me, and I asked them, I said, how are you doing? And she said, okay, I just came from the motor vehicle department. Good luck, because the motor vehicle department in the States is miserable, a terrible experience. And I said, oh, great, well, I'm sorry to hear that. How was that? And she doubled up her fists, put her elbows next to her body, put her arms there, and she screwed up her face and said, oh, I could kill this. And I said, beautiful, beautiful. She said, what do you mean, beautiful? And I said, you just expressed anger absolutely beautifully and totally in a benign way. You didn't kill them because you were doing it. But she felt. So, this is the same. If all these feelings want to do weird things, we use our body to feel it. If we say feel, that's the body. And people who are depressed don't feel, or less feel. There's no feeling that is much diminished. If you feel anger, it's going to be in certain parts. If you feel love, it's going to be in certain parts. And so these things, again, there's studies, if you're interested in studying these things, people do imaging of these things. So what happens in the body with different emotions? Very interesting kind of thing. I don't do PowerPoints. Okay, so first part of the Tai Chi, the My Chi is what sensations do you notice in your body? Now, let me just demonstrate. I'm going to just do a survey. What am I feeling mostly? Point B, was pushing there, pulling it. When we go from A to B, we're repeating something that we've done in the past, and it's a pattern. We say in the neurological world, something that fires together, the synaptic pattern, becomes wired together. So if we do this, which we do, how many times have we done that? This is in our neurological pattern. Every way we move individually, some people will get up from the chair one way, some others will get up from the chair in a different way. That pattern becomes wired in our memory of our body. But we can change it. We can change these things. And when we change the wiring and the pattern in our body, we change the way we feel and the way we think, and we change the possibilities for us. So this is one of the things capable of available to this transformation. So as we pay attention to the sensations, so I'll demonstrate. So I'm feeling in my body, I feel some tension or stiffness in my lower back. Okay, that's what I think. So I feel that I need to move my body somehow to the right and maybe twist it. But I'm going to just go with that and say, body, show me what you need to do and what you want to do. Now, I'll do it very slowly. So right now, you may not see I'm moving my pelvis up and begin to stretch to the side. Okay, now I can feel all the way up and down, all the way down this side of my body, the stretch. Now this part, this thing wants to stretch, so I'll move it. Now I want to take a breath, so I take the breath. Now I want to arch my back more. And now I want to extend my arms to the side. But I'm using the sensations that I have that come to me and tell me what my body wants to do. Now I want to stretch my wrist this way and that way. And now my back and now my legs. And so what I'm doing is I'm slowly letting my body move in the way it wants to, knows to, and using that as a guide rather than a recipe that I impose upon myself. Like we do with Tai Chi, which is very formulaic, or yoga. So this is kind of like using the body as the guide and using the sensations and using what the body knows it needs to do. When the lion wakes from sleep, it does usually very typical kind of thing, like that, raises its behind up, stretches things, exercises his jaw and his snout. So see, give it a shot, and if it makes sense, you feel, if it makes sense and you're doing it correctly, you will feel the correctness, the rightness of the stretch. Keep it really slow and notice everything that happens in the muscles and the nerves, and the slower you do it, because it will amplify by slowing down, it will amplify the sensations in the nerves as you do it. Not paying attention to what's happening, and you're not using what comes next. You know, what does my body want to do next? Let's twist. Yeah, it was. I can tell, to be honest, I can tell someone's got it. You've got it, actually. You're doing it. Some people are not doing it. They're going through the motions, but they're not. The ability to tune in to the sensations is key. And to be able to tune in, I'm sorry, that's good. You know, to tune into the sensations is what it's all about, and then let that guide the movement, and the movement will be sometimes very complex. That's the kind of thing you can't put in the instructions. We'll do this and do this. It's like if you're stretching your arm like this, and then suddenly you're supposed to turn this around, and then that's a very complex stretch. The body is, hundreds and hundreds of muscles, and some of them are chronically tight, some of them are chronically loose. Okay, continue doing it. There now, someone's getting it because they're starting to breathe more. Just now, yes, starting to breathe more, and you were making that stretch because you felt like you needed to do it. Now, this is not any different than what we do when we wake up and say, except we're slowing it down. And that slowing down, when we slow down something, we expand it in time. Allah was designed to move. The Prophet said, he said, give the salat of all the more than 300 joints in your body, at the points of articulation. Articulation, movement is the word for, the things that move, the places of articulation. And so we're designed to move. We learn to move, and we learn to do everything. Listen to this now. We learn to do everything. To speak, to think, and to understand, not only from this, but from this. In stages. Okay, so is that it? You don't want to do any more? So, say again.
The thing that we did yesterday, we ourselves what with each other now. We can do the proximity with each other.
Well, you could, okay, if you go off and we can do something like you go off and pair off diads on your partner. Okay? And there's many things, because there's many things we can do, and we can discover. This is pretty close. Everybody, it's all right. Everybody's laughing. We're connecting together. I'm going to connect with you. And so actually, we're going to have a that's what we're about. I have a question on that. This is the kind of exercise you do on my side. Okay, so you have your partner in front of you. Now, let me just add some, I have to add my little kind of nerdy comments. Imam Ghazali, when he speaks about Rizaq, and that our rizq, we have to give forth from it. It comes from Allah. All of our rizq comes from Rizaq. But it is the ability to experience these subtle realities in our bodies. Are you with us? Say again? Not yet. No, I'm not practicing with this. This is subtle, the ability to sense these subtle sensations. Now, when we're with someone, notice that we all came together when we pick a partner. Because this is part of our systems awakening. We're getting more and more into the connecting. Attachment and connection is one of the biggest things in school today. And as I said before, one of the most clear things you can experience is most but we can have courage to reach out to it. So when we interact, when I speak to someone, they listen, there's an exchange.
We're just trying to get somebody apart. Yeah. Sorry.
So before we begin here, just be yourself. You don't have to be touching that yet. Let's do the first one. So first of all, why don't you turn your back to the other? Okay? Now the one that's in front. Good. I want to turn it back. You're facing back. Just one of you turn your back. Just one of you turn your back. Now that you have to touch. Face to face. Okay, now just stand there. Try not to touch the circle. Now there's a person standing behind you or standing in front of you. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Notice what that feels like to have a person in front of you. The person standing behind you. What happens in your body? Anyone? Okay. There's what? There's a warmth in your back. Okay. Anyone else? Say again. Safety. You feel safe behind. Can you sense, first of all, can you sense that there's a person behind you?
Yeah, I can sense.
And the sense behind you will be all kinds of things. You know, it might be you want to move closer. It might be, you know, but there's the point of thinking is we sense these things. Our state changes. Now the person that's behind you, I want to if it's okay. Think of the thought of a person's head, but don't let them see you visually. Okay, what do you notice now? If you move it in front. Okay, now people are laughing. Why are you laughing? Feeling something, right? Notice. And from that knowing that that's up there, the body should respond. In other words, respond not just from a physical sensation, but from cognitive understanding. Because the cognitive understanding, are you all listening? No. Like very simply. Okay, now you let your hands down, that's fine. Now, notice what you feel in your body, both people. And the one that's in front. Slowly, now listen. I want to slowly turn around, face downward. So you're looking downward. The one in front turns around, so you're both facing each other, but you're not looking at each other's face. Look down, not looking at each other's face, and notice what happens. Notice the different state. Notice what's different now, and notice the state of your body. That person in front of you, okay? And focus on it. Reflect on it for a bit. Take it in. Remember, these are subtle sensations. So that subtle text is kind of difficult to access to some degree. But we can hone this, we can polish it, we can develop it until actually we become really good at it. We can notice all things that are in front of us. So try not to do the experiment yet. Yeah, okay. When this happens and you're facing someone that close, breath is something that you're taking in from them. Now, slowly, here's the key. For all these kind of exercises, there are exercises of awareness, and there are exercises in which we accessing very, very, very subtle, very, very subtle sensations that change, that affect our states. When we begin to understand our how, when we begin to learn and understand what our how is at any given time, it has to do with the knowledge of what's going on inside of us. So I want you very, very slowly, notice what you do in your body as you raise your head very, very slowly until you're facing the person with the eyes open. Slow. You feel like your hands are warm. Notice that. You're sweating. And there's a lot of but notice the state changes. Say again. You feel open. Yeah. So sitting there, this is good. Openness. But connection was made. Look at the chart of connection. Our systems are front, to front, and observation day and night. the sign, that's a big sign, all the different things, all of life, all the aspects of life. Day and night. Rise, dark. Charge up. As I said, the other day, when we breathe in, nervous system charges up. When we look at someone's face, our nervous system charges up. Especially mother, when we start mother looking at the baby in that face, we make the effort for babies to pay attention. Contact me through your eyes. We look and think instinctually. It's not so much because the wolf and the other animals, they don't do that same thing. In synesthesia, that's when we develop the capacity to sense other, mother, is the most difficult. And that ability to have a sense of other is the means by which we have also the capacity to have a sense of self that we cannot get from other without other, and that's back to this thing which we say, the woman is the mirror to the woman. But the woman, and people who are raised by animals, they don't have the gaze. They can't stop and have that gaze. So that when you look at each other's faces, that people were here speaking about the polyvagal. But there's a nerve that comes from the brain, goes to the heart, the lungs and the heart, the stomach, all parts of the body, and it starts up here and involves the social engagement mechanism of the face. And when we have that social engagement, this is the reason, and when we yawn, that nerve is stimulated. Now, if all these New Age people are saying, well, you use cold water in your face and so forth, and that will stimulate this vagus nerve. But I think the nerve down here behind the ear, and then the ears back there, from the face, the brain, goes to all the organs. So we call it wandering, right? Wandering is to repose. Wanders, and then it's also the nerve in front of the navel is by heartbeat and breathing. So when the mother looks at the baby, charges up, and when the baby looks away and the mother looks away, unless the mother's, why are you not, the mother's kind of helicoptering, then the baby, the child, just it bypasses that connection. But aversion. Aversion comes when there's too much attention to the child or the baby. And that's a natural, biological animal quality. Don't tell me this or tell me this or that. I don't want to hear anything. Just leave it.
Is this why when you're shy to speak to someone, you cannot look them in the eye, although like you feel there's an emotional connection?
Yeah, it's a very complex thing. But there's very basic things. Everything happens through our face and our voice. But there's all sorts of aspects to not looking at something. The Arabs, as a group of people, Arabs have more eye contact than any other culture in the planet.
Like, would it make a difference if standing facing somebody who was a complete stranger? Because I really.
Okay, what's the answer? If she was facing a complete stranger?
I think I would have the curiosity to look at them more.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I wanted to know.
There's another exercise that we don't have the space to do. But in that exercise, what happens is one person stands at one end of the room. We can do it with 2 or 3 people. You want to do it with 2 or 3 people? Yeah, right? Okay, so can we get 3 people